Welcome back. This is lesson 2. Today we're going to start looking at animation of a sprite, so looking at how we can get a sprite to move, a character to move, that makes it look a little bit more realistic. So as you can see on the right hand side, I've got the scratch cat. We know that we can change this, so I'm just going to pop down into my library. So just on that little cat face, the sprite library, I'm going to go onto my magnifying glass that lets me choose different sprites. I'm going to go for an animal today. If you hover your finger over the different characters, you'll spot that some have what we call different costumes. So this allows us to move a character so it looks as if it's moving. So what I want you to do, you don't necessarily have to choose the one that I am going to pick. I can see this one. I think I'm going to try that one there. I'm going to go for the dog. So I'm going to just click onto the dog here. I'm going to pull him over. Now, I do not want both sprites, okay? I don't want this cat here, so I'm just going to move my mouse down to the bottom here, click on the mouse, and I'm going to click on that bin, and that bin will allow me to get rid of that sprite that I don't need, and I can concentrate on this one here. Looking over to the left hand side here, you've got the code. So we're looking at our sprite on the right here. We've got our code, so we can choose the different code that we want to program this sprite to do what we want. But we've also got this little one here called costumes. Now, as I click on that tab, okay, that menu, I can see down the left hand side here, I've got costume 1, costume 2, costume 3. But as you can see, it's costume A, B, and costume C. Okay, so you've got the dog. He looks like he moves, and then he's having a little bit of a think. Okay, so we know we've got 3 costumes. So I'm just going to jump back onto my code here. I'll let you do that. And I'm going to go down to my menu here to the purple bricks here. Now, this is how we get our character to appear different. We can get him to say hello, to get him to think. This is the one that we want here. We are going to switch the costume. So I'm going to pull this across. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger so you can see. And there's a little drop down menu here. I'm going to go for dog A. I'm going to pull the same code across, clip it on, and I'm going to have B. So as you can see, as I click on it now, it's moved from one to another. Now we know how to get the character to change costume, the sprite to change costume. What we want to do is make this a little bit more realistic. So what we want to do is we want the character to move like we did yesterday in our lesson, but we also want the character, the sprite, to change costume as he's moving. Okay. Now, when we write our code like this, what we want to happen is that we want there to be a bit of a delay between costume 1 and 2 so that we can actually see the changes. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in here. And I'm just going to show you. Now we can see a bit of a change. Okay, that wait 1 second allows us just to see the difference between the costumes. So I'm just going to jump back over here to the left hand side. We're going to go to the menu that we went to yesterday, the motion, and I'm going to pull that move 10 down, and I'm going to pull another move 10 down to the bottom there. Okay, let's just have a look at what happens. So we can see that the dog's moving, it waits, and we can see the difference between the costume change. Have a go at that. I want a little bit more control over my sprite now, so I'm going to start thinking about what happens and how I'm going to get this dog to move. So I'm just going to move over to my left-hand menu bar here. I'm going to click on my events. I'm going to click on my when the flag is clicked. Read through the code. When the flag is clicked, should I say, the costume's going to move from costume A. He's going to move 10 steps. Wait, B, 10 steps. So I'm just going to click it and have a look. Brilliant. Now, I could keep clicking this flag and keep getting him to move, but I want this to happen more than once, okay? So instead of keep clicking all of the time, what we're going to do is pop over here to our control, okay? Just down here, and it's the dark orange. We want this to happen a number of times. We want to choose. So we're going to use a repeat loop here, okay? This means I'm just going to pull this to the bottom here. This is the easiest way of doing it. Pull it to the bottom. I want this code to go through a number of times. I think to get this dog to move across the screen to the other side, I think he's going to have to do it at least 5 times. So I'm just going to change that number 10 to number 5. I want him to repeat this 5 times. I'm going to go up to my code at the top here. I'm going to hold on to that very top piece of code. I'm going to pull it down and pop it into here. And all of the code is in this little loop. I'm going to put that loop and I'm going to click it on here. Right, so I'm just going to recap on what we've got here. I'm going to pull the code out just so we can see it separately. This is the code that we developed before, the algorithm. We want the dog to start on costume A, move, wait, move to another costume and move. But we want that to happen 5 times, so we want it to run once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So we're going to place this code, this algorithm inside this loop here, and then we're going to press play. So I'm going to watch it 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's gone through the 5 times, but I've spotted something I'm going to add in. Okay. Right, so as we said before, there was something in this that I spotted that I wasn't quite happy about, and this is called debugging, where we take part of our program that we've written, our algorithm, and we just make some changes to it to make it fit what we want it to do. So I've spotted when I press the flag that there's a bit of a judder when the dog is moving, okay? And that's because when I look through, there should be a bit of a pattern. We've got the dog moving, wait 1 second, dog moving, but we haven't placed that wait button in there. So I'm just going to pop that in and just see what the difference is now I move. So remember, if we want to move that dog back to the beginning, we just pick it up with our finger or our mouse, move it back. So I'm going to watch it now. A lot smoother. Okay. Now, as you're doing this, there's lots of extra challenges that you can do. So, for example, you might want to speed the dog up. You might want to get him across the screen. It's up to you. So these are a couple of the things that we're going to look at now. So changing speed. I can see that the dog is moving, but this wait 1 second could be altered, which would make the dog appear like he is going to move a little bit quicker. So if we've got 1 second and I cut that in half, we're going to use decimals, so it's going to be 0.5. So just use for that point, just use a full stop on your keyboard, okay? And I'm going to change this to 0.5. Half the speed, so half the time, cutting 1 second in half. So he should move a little bit quicker. Let's watch him. Yep, fantastic. Okay, I might even decide to change my 10 steps down to, sorry, not down, up to 20 steps and just spot the difference between the two. Okay, pull him back to the beginning, run the code. Now what I want you to do is investigate what you could do to this number here to make him go even quicker. Okay, try 0.25, try 0.05 and see what happens when you change just that weight to a different decimal value. Have a go and see what happens. So if you've had a go at that and you've got your dog to move across the screen to the other side, you've got him to speed up. The last thing you might do is just add that last bit of costume in, which is that think. So I've got my code, I've got it in my loop. I know there's one more costume, which was this costume here, that he hasn't put in. So I'm just going to link that in now. So I'm going to move over to my left hand side here. I'm going to go to my looks because we're looking for that other costume. I'm going to go down, 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 down to my switch costume. I'm going to pop that on the very end. And I want it to be not A, not B, but dog C. And I'm also going to add that think in. So he's going to think this and he's going to say, you are very clever! Exclamation mark. So I'm going to run the code now and you should see a big difference. We'll run through the code. Gets to the other side. You're very clever. Now, just before we finish for today, what I want you to think about is why these two bits of code are not put in this loop, okay, in this repeat 5. Why are they on the bottom? Have a bit of a think. Run the code again if you want to. Now, the reason that we have this code at the very bottom is we don't want it to happen 5 times. We don't want him to keep walking across and saying, you're clever, okay? We want him to say it at the very, very end. If I wanted to say him to say it every time, I'll just show you the difference. So the position of the code, there he's thought about it once, he's thought about it twice, he's thought about it 3 times, 4 times, and finally 5 times. Okay, so that's the difference in where you put the code. If I want to move it again, remember, pick up from where you want to move and pop it on the end. Have a good day.